This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Leo Inc., Daolis Brothers Construction, and King Movers and Storage.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the start of a brand new month, an episode of the LCTV News. I'm Danny Vittori, and be prepared to hear from several local officials and youth leaders regarding the newest ideas and initiatives being introduced to our community. Mayor Nicholson was back on the Lowdown, this time discussing data and results from the Kings Beach UV pilot program. There's much to cover, so let's jump right in with the news for Friday, November 7th, 2025. Lynn, you voted, and the results are in for the 2025 election. In Ward 1, incumbent Pete Meany held off challenger Paul Guthrow to retain his seat for another 2 years. Ward 5 was the tightest race, with Cardelise Pais defeating Josh Polonsky by just 69 votes, 500 to 431. Jordan Avery is the other new addition to the council. He will represent Ward 7, after beating Billy Devon Jr. 686 to 585 votes. As for Councilor at Large, all four incumbents retain their seats. Hong Net topped the ticket with 4,186, followed closely by Brian LaPierre at 4,034, Nicole McLean with 4,005, and Brian Field at 3,935. Challenger Jean-Michael Fana came up just short, collecting 2,556 votes. In a race where there was an open seat, the school committee welcomed two new members. Incumbents Lorraine Gately, Brian Castellanos, Lenny Pena, and Andrea Satterwhite were all voted in for another 2 years. But it was the newcomer Tristan Smith topping the ticket with 3,609 votes. Brenda Ortiz-McGrath also earned a seat with 3,046 votes, while incumbent Eric Dugan was not re-elected. The federal government shutdown has entered its 5th week, but the Trump administration faces deadlines to comply with court orders to continue funding SNAP, the nation's largest food aid program, serving approximately 1 in 8 Americans. However, it is uncertain whether those orders will be met, so the City of Lynn and local organizations have released a list of resources for families. Residents can contact Project Bread Hotline to navigate immediate hunger concerns. The Food Project is donating more than 3,000 pounds of fresh produce to local food pantries and community fridges. My Brother's Table, the Salvation Army, and Phoenix Food Hub offer additional resources. There's also the Lynn Farmers Market, Lynn Community Health Center's Mobile Market, Catholic Charities, and the Lynn Community Fridge. For a complete list of organizations and hours of operation, visit lyntv.org. Goldfish Pond was full of light on November 1st, but not from the fountains, but from lanterns. At the first of what will be an annual tradition, residents decorated and built their own Japanese floating lanterns, which were then released on the pond at sunset.
Hi everyone, my name is Sunil Gulab. I'm the president of the Goldfish Pond Association.
And I'm Sandy Cornell. I am the precinct captain for Ward 4, this Goldfish Pond area.
Since we're on in such a beautiful area of Lynn and right on a body of water, what a better way than to celebrate the park and to have people come and appreciate Goldfish Pond. So this idea was something very simple, but when the sun goes down, we shut off all the lights and then you see all of these lanterns on the pond. And I've seen it before and it's really beautiful. As simple as it is, it's very elegant and it gives kids and adults something to do. And it's very basic, but when you get 100 of them pushed off at the same time, it's actually amazing.
And we added to it by adding various activities such as painting pumpkins and stained glass ornaments like acorns and fall leaves and whatnot for the children to be entertained, coloring sheets, prizes for different events, and we just did a boat race and gave out prizes for that, for example.
Yeah, and it's a way of getting people to appreciate what Lynn has to offer and hopefully bring in people from other parts of the state because, you know, I think Lynn's amazing and this is a perfect way of showing it.
1, 2, 3, 1, go!
In a ceremony on November 5th, the bridge at 194 Lynnway was renamed the Massachusetts Gold Star Families Memorial Bridge in honor of families of late veterans. The Gold Star label is used for families of lost veterans as the result of hostile actions, combat operations, or international terrorism. There have been more than 450 Gold Star families since World War II. Gold Star wives Donna Brown and Linda Cafferty-Solomini attended the ceremony, calling the renaming of the bridge an honor. As stated by Cafferty-Solomini, quote, "to have a place to come and reflect. No matter how many areas in the state honor veterans, this is going to be our place now," end quote. Mayor Jared Nicholson, State Representative Sean Reed, and State Senator Brendan Crichton all spoke, referring to the bridge as a permanent, highly visible way for the city to honor their Gold Star families and for their residents to remember them every time they drive to or from the city. Joe Santiago, Secretary for the Executive Office of Veteran Affairs, added, quote, "They keep alive the stories of those who gave everything. These are people who have lost something that will never come back, and they still show up for others. They turn pain into purpose," end quote. Brothers Deli of Lynn, Community Credit Union, and the North Shore Latino Business Association are teaming up to collect toys for children in need this holiday season. From November 4th through December 20th, they are asking for donations of new, unwrapped toys for children aged 6 to 16. Residents can drop off toys at Brothers Deli of Lynn, 41 Market Street, the North Shore Latino Business Association, 33 Sutton Street, or any of the Community Credit Union's 3 locations. Gifts will then be distributed to children and families in need to make their holiday season a little brighter. The Haven Project hosted Shining a Light on Youth Homelessness event, combining several panel discussions with a youth art exhibit. Attendees heard from those directly affected by homelessness and housing instability for the young population.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here and for your commitment to standing with young people who are all too often overlooked in our community. I've seen how quickly the path from hope to homelessness can unfold and how powerful it is when we step in to change that story.
And as of May 2025, so last spring, that number for LPS was 2,000 young people that at some point in the year had experienced homelessness, and that is a staggering amount in a district of about 16,000 students.
We do have a youth count bi-yearly, and we we still don't have the best isolated numbers that we could to understand the problem. But I can tell you here at the Haven Project, we serve over 300 youth a year, and I don't think we're even scratching the surface of what we probably could be doing. Though we try our very best to get the word out there and serve as many youth as we can. And according to Mass Youth Count, again, we only had 34% of unaccompanied homeless youth receive any form of housing assistance, which leaves the majority of the youth that we are serving without a safety net.
One of the main ways the city is trying to address this issue is adding more units, and we were proud to partner with the Haven Project on the wonderful Catalyst development. The city has over 600 units of affordable housing at various stages of the development pipeline, which is great. I mean, it's probably not enough, but it is a very significant portfolio that I think would compare really well with any community in the Commonwealth.
So what do you want people in positions of power to understand about what it actually takes to rebuild your life?
I would like them to understand that it's not just you waking up one morning and deciding that your life is going to be completely different. It requires you being strong mentally, being well with yourself, and also having a lot of support around you. If support is not out there, then I fear that it's going to be really hard for youth to get better.
When I first connected with the Haven Project, I was a kid who was looking for the fast way instead of the patience that I have now. I wanted to get all my problems solved immediately, which I learned is not the best way to approach life.
It took a lot of patience, both from my side of the things, but also from provider side, where I needed to get an ID, I needed to get my documents, and thankfully my parents had some of those things, but I was quite literally starting off from scratch, from both the side of getting physical things, but also at the time, like I said, I was 18, so there was a lot that I didn't know about the world.
Because they're not just statistics. They're young people, they're worthy of opportunities just like everyone else.
The Healey-Driscoll administration announced the awarding of just over $1 million in state grants to 38 school districts to prevent hate crimes and reduce bias in schools. These grants align with joint guidance released by Attorney General Andrea Campbell and the Healey-Driscoll administration in 2024, assisting schools in combating hate and fostering a safe space that is also consistent with their legal obligations. Lynn Public Schools will be receiving a $25,000 hate crime prevention grant, which can be used to improve policies or for reporting and responding to incidents of hate crimes or bias. The goal is to ensure that all students feel safe, respected, and supported in their learning environment. For the second consecutive year, the Bulldogs brought the Greater Boston League title back to Lynn with a 32-22 victory over Somerville on Halloween. As has been the case all year, Xavier Beauchamp and Sean Knowlton-Samard led the way, combining for 177 yards and 3 scores. In the first half, it was Beauchamp rushing for a 19-yard score. In the second, up 26-22, Knowlton-Samard connected with freshman receiver Macca Kurt on 3rd and 15 to keep the drive alive before yet another score. On the defensive side of the ball, it was sophomore Aiden Soto recording multiple sacks and controlling the line of scrimmage for English. However, a 6-2 record was still not enough to secure a playoff berth. Over the weekend, Kip showed Lowell Catholic who was boss in a dominant 41-6 final. Quarterback Eli Machado was everywhere, recording 112 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, aided by Avian Peña's 116 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Uriel Feliz added on the additional 2 scores on a 20-yard catch and fumble recovery for a score. They will play undefeated Frontier Regional in the first round of the Division 8 playoffs. Also in Division 8 play, 11th-ranked Lynn Tech will travel to Cape Cod to face Bourne, while A-seeded St. Mary's will host 9th-ranked Greater Lawrence Tech tonight the 7th at 6:30 p.m. But Lynn Tech struggled against Neshoba Valley Tech, falling in a 43-20 final. Jacob Garcia scored 2 touchdowns for the Tigers in the loss. In volleyball, Kip reached the end of the road in Division 5 play, falling to Lennox Memorial 3-0 on Halloween. The Spartans also bowed out of postseason play, falling in the division round of 32 to Joseph Cass 3-0 on November 2nd. While 13th seeded Classical was looking to pull off the biggest upset of the postseason against 4th-ranked Linfield. The Rams were up 2-0, but the Pioneers rallied to win the final 3 sets, securing the 3-2 victory. On November 4th, the number 13 Tigers were tied 1-1 to number 4 Carver, but ultimately fell 3-1 in the Division 4 Sweet 16. Despite their best effort, the English boys soccer team could not break through in a 3-0 final to Lexington in the preliminary round. While St. Mary's also saw their playoff run come to an end in the Division 3 round of 32. The Spartans were only down 1-0 at halftime, but could not contain the Watertown offense in a 3-1 final. 32nd-ranked Kip did not have any better luck, falling to top-ranked Boston International 12-0 on the 5th. On the other end, it was the girls Spartans coming away with final bragging rights, edging Bishop Fenwick 1-0 in their Division 3 round of 32 match. The goal came in the 29th minute and was fittingly scored by senior captain Sophie Skabakis. St. Mary's defense also stood strong, earning them a date with top-ranked Medfield on the 8th. Lynn Tech girls made the postseason for the first time in school history, but their road ended at Frontier Regional 8-2. The Tigers finished the year at 10-9. The latest Patriots home game was a nail-biter, but New England pulled out the 24-23 victory over the Atlanta Falcons for their 6th straight win. The Patriots' offense was hindered by injuries, as both Ramondre Stevenson and top receiver Kayshon Boutte were out. It fell on the newer players, who made the most of the opportunity, as rookie running back Terrell Jennings rushed for 35 yards and a score, while Demario Douglas also collected his first 100-yard game of the year, along with a touchdown reception. New England's defense did their job, but they will have to tighten up their coverage heading into a tough road matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this Sunday. The Town of Swampscott and City of Lynn concluded their joint UV pilot program in August and released the results last month. Mayor Nicholson was our guest on the Lowdown to discuss the impact and possible next steps regarding the cleanup of Kings Beach. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Danny Vittori. Welcome back to the Lynn Lowdown, and today we are welcoming back on the Mayor of the City of Lynn, Jared Nicholson, to talk about the Kings Beach UV pilot program. That was a long intro, but thank you so much for being here, Mayor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So we're here, of course, to talk about the thing that everyone was hearing about this summer, the Kings Beach UV pilot program, but now you have the data from it, you're starting to collect some facts. But before I get to that, I'll back up a little and say, the pilot itself ran for about 2 months this summer, that's correct, June to August?
Yep.
So based on that, and the big thing about it was a joint operation between the Town of Swampscott and the City of Lynn, and how important was that collaboration? Because, of course, Kings Beach straddles both areas.
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, so this has been a problem for the region for decades, right. And we are really committed to solving it, but one of the reasons that it has been so hard to solve is because it cuts across different boundaries. It's geographically it's shared by Swampscott and Lynn, and then there's a lot of agencies involved as well. The beach is actually owned by the State Department of Conservation and Recreation on the Lynn side. The culvert, the pipes on the Lynn side are owned by the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, which is technically a separate agency from the city. And then operationally, to pull off this pilot, there was a lot of different departments, even within the City of Lynn, that we work with. Inspectional Services, the Department of Public Works, Department of Public Health. And so there was a whole lot of collaboration that went into making this a success.
Mm-hmm. Which is a big thing, because getting all those people sit down at a table, you went through many different ideas to see which would be most effective, and you settled on UV, how that worked, because Kings Beach had been ranked one of, I think, it was the second dirtiest beach in the state. So that's not a good statistic to have.
Exactly. No, we were tired of having our beach be one of the worst in the region, and this is after a heralded cleanup of the Boston Harbor, where Massachusetts is generally really proud of its beaches, and Kings Beach has been an ugly exception to that, and we want to fix that.
And then Kleinfelder was the company that collected and now released this report about the data that came out, and one of the big numbers that strikes you is they were testing at 4 different places, and now the bacteria level, it only exceeded what the state deems appropriate 8 times this year. Last year it was 33, the year before it was 43. So that's a huge downtick in the numbers for keeping that beach safer.
Yeah, so that was, I think, a big headline result. And again, there's a lot of different variables that go into all of these outputs,
of course, yeah.
But we saw that as an encouraging sign. And one of the things I mentioned too is that this summer was relatively drier, which means you're going to have less of a problem with bacteria. But even compared to years that had comparable levels of rainfall, there was an improvement in terms of the number of exceedances. So we found that to be really encouraging.
And you say when it gets wet, when there's more rain, that's where the water becomes more difficult to clean because of the turbidity and everything. So that was I know a major problem going into it that you sought to solve, but that seems to be the most challenging thing to figure out, is how do you clean the water when it's this high, when it's this churned up?
Right. So and the turbidity, that's how clear the water is essentially, and that's that's an indication that's really important for the UV specifically, because if the water's not clear, the UV can't get through it to kill the bacteria.
Right.
The issue at the beach is the dry weather flow that's running into Stacy's Brook, this natural brook that runs all down the Lynn Swampscott line and into the ocean, is getting dry weather flow that has contaminants in it.
Yeah.
Beaches in urban areas are always having issues with wet weather flow when it rains, and a lot of urban beaches you don't go in when it's raining or right after it's raining.
Right.
But the problem at Kings Beach is that it wasn't just after it's raining; it was all the time that it was contaminated. And so figuring out how to address the dry weather flow has been the real push of this UV system and the alternatives. And as always, the main strategy has been and continues to be source elimination, illicit discharge detection elimination. But we've seen that there is really a potential need for a complementary solution, and right now the UV is the leading contender for that.
You said you have multiple solutions going at once, like when you're looking for illicit connections, eliminating those. Over in Swampscott, it's replacing older or cracked pipes, but this is the complementary solution to that, is add in the UV and see if it can make the outcome even better, which it appears like it has.
Right. I mean, the thing about the source elimination is that there's no timeline on which we know that that's going to be successful, or even if it would be sufficient.
Right.
And so that highlights the importance of doing the complementary solution as well.
And when you went back, you did recently have a town hall about it, going over the data. What has been the public input so far that you've gotten as people are looking at the data, they're seeing what the effect of UV has been? What has been the feedback?
Well, I think there's been a lot of feedback that has been thrilled that that we're so focused on this and are advancing the goals that our residents have to have access to clean beaches. There was, I think there has been appreciation for the innovative approach and support for that. There's been really good questions about the data itself and what we're learning, and I think some feedback for the engineers on interpreting the data, and a good robust discussion. There's also abutters at the site where the temporary pilot that was that felt like the presence there was not welcome in their neighborhood, as well as folks with thoughts and questions about the source elimination and what's going on there and how we could do that better. So I think people are really engaged on this, and we're having some great conversations.
And one thing you even mentioned too was the next steps. Now that you have this data, it goes into a feasibility study of, could UV be the permanent solution for this, not just a temporary pilot?
Right. And like I said, the main strategy is always source elimination, but the question is, do we need a permanent complementary solution?
Right.
And for us, one of the goals of the pilot was to help us answer that question. I think we got a lot of great data, so much that I think we want to revisit what a permanent solution would look like, how big it needs to be, whether it could be below ground or partially below ground, because that will then help us determine what kind of site we would need to locate this. And so that's the anticipated next step, is we do a deeper feasibility analysis that would then inform, can give us a better sense of what kind of space we need and what kind of price tag we'll be looking at.
Yeah, of course, because of course the funding is also another big piece of it, because this pilot program was funded, but then going forward, how you have to think about how a permanent site would be funded as well.
Right, exactly. And again, this is a joint collaboration with Swampscott, and so we're doing everything together. We've also gotten tremendous support from our state and federal delegation, Senator Crichton, Representative Armini, Representative Cahill, Representative Reed, as well as our nonprofit partners, Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, Friends of Lynn Beach, Safe Kings Beach, all folks that are really engaged on this issue.
And collaboration is key on an issue, especially like this, that's so large. It's been a problem for decades. You're not going to have just one thing that fixes it. Like you said, it's complementary solutions. It's everyone working together to do it. And you, over the summer, too, you had, I think it was interns collecting it. Was it 4 different sites that you collected from daily? That's correct?
That's right, yeah. A volunteer from Swampscott, Lou Smith, did a wonderful job running this program of college interns getting field experience and doing environmental science out in the real world. And the interns were amazing, and I hope got a lot out of it. And we certainly benefited immensely from having that data.
Yeah, because you go and you collect it every day, how it works, because there were a few days where it wasn't really operational, but for the most part, it was running for the entire period it was supposed to.
Yeah, so it started later than we had anticipated because at the beginning of the summer, I don't know if you remember, there was this big nor'easter, and we delayed as a result the implementation. And then we had, I think, worse than anticipated impact from seaweed in the machines that were running. And so there needed to be some changes made in the field. I mean, this was one of the goals of writing the pilot, was not only to get information on the UV technology, but also on the operational realities of running it in the field. And so that's exactly what we gathered, what we gained.
Because you can run 100 different simulations, but you're not going to know until you put it in the field and see, okay, this is what it does. All right, seaweed is more of an issue, but then you can adjust.
Exactly.
If UV becomes the permanent complementary solution.
Exactly, and that's what the team did. There were some great folks, including our vendors, who helped us put in a grade at the end of the culvert, and also some employees from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission and from the Swampscott DPW who were out there cleaning the site, making sure it was operational. It was really a tremendous team effort, and we really appreciate all their hard work.
And now going forward, you have the data. What would a timeline look like in terms of you're analyzing all the data, the report's been released? What would be the timeline looking forward now?
It's hard to say the timeline without knowing what we're gonna build, but I think hopefully we're talking about the feasibility study first, which is then going to say, all right, so how much space do we need, and so on and so forth. And then when we know that, if we're continuing down this path, and we're constantly asking ourselves that question, if that's what we should be doing. But if we are continuing down this path, then we'd be talking about a place to site it, like where it's going to be located, and how to pay for it. It'd be hard for me to predict exactly when we'd be able to line up the funding, because we don't even necessarily know yet the order of magnitude of funding we're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
If that changes. The initial estimate that we had received in the 2023 report was somewhere in the range of $25-30 million. We'll see as that evolves, and so we need to line both of those up for us to be able to proceed. And then there's the design and construction and so on and so forth. So we're talking about a couple years to several years, depending on how that all plays out.
But that's still better than what we might have initially started with, which was we didn't really have any idea when this would be fixed, if it would be in 5-10 years. But now there's at least more of a solution coming from it, right, with the data you now have.
Yeah, exactly. So right, without the complementary solution, where it's just indefinite, like it may never be fixed. That's the question where we have to ask. In the meantime, we are very focused on the source elimination. If that fixes it in the meantime, then great.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely
what we would prefer. And we're pushing as hard as we can on that. And there's some more activity coming up on the source elimination. There's also a potential, if the community's desire, to run a temporary system in some fashion again in the meantime, to gather more information and to have the beach open. And those are things that we'll all be looking at in the coming months.
Mm-hmm. All the solutions, because I said you have all the data gathering, and it does seem like it's been a tremendous success. And you would say that too. It did open the beach more. It made the beach swimmable, which it hasn't been for the last couple of years.
Absolutely. It was a tremendous success in the sense that we got some more beach days that people could swim. We learned a lot about the problem and also about a potential solution. And we continued working all together on the issue. There were certainly challenges operationally, like I mentioned, and additional questions that we want to ask for ourselves before declaring that this is all over and we figured it all out.
Yeah.
But in that sense, we definitely believe it was a success.
It definitely appears to be, with all the data and with everything you looked at. And I do have to wrap up in a moment, but was there anything else I hadn't touched upon or mentioned that you wanted to say about the pilot, the process, any of that?
Well, I think it's important for us to take a step back and remind ourselves that Kings Beach is Lynn's only public beach. And as the summers get hotter and folks are more and more cognizant of disparities and access to the environment, what we have happening at Kings Beach is truly an environmental justice issue.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for our partners in all those different organizations I mentioned for the opportunity to work together to try to solve it.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been there filming several of the collaborative meetings, efforts, people, local government, state, federal, all of the organizations, and it has been a great collaboration to see. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, where this information takes us and where it goes with Kings Beach.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. And of course, as always, Mayor, thank you for coming on the show. And if anyone wants to learn more information, there is more on the City of Lynn's website. But for now, I'm Danny Vittori. This has been the Lynn Lowdown, and we'll see you next week with more guests. The annual City of Lynn Veterans Day Breakfast and Ceremony will take place on Tuesday, November 11th at City Hall. From 8:30 to 9:30 a.m., veterans, military members, and supporters are invited to join in a complimentary breakfast served by city and state officials. Then at 10 a.m., head into the Lynn Auditorium for the ceremony itself, featuring a presentation by the Lynn English Junior ROTC, a performance by the Lynn All-City Band, and several additional tributes. The Lynn Vocational Technical Alumni Association presents the 11th Annual Festival of Trees. Beginning a week from Sunday, this festival runs from November 16th through the 23rd and features trees decorated by several organizations and businesses in Lynn. Trees will be displayed in the Lynn Tech Annex building, where viewers can buy tickets and bid on their favorites. Admission is $5 per person, and raffle tickets are $25 for 5. 100% of the proceeds are used to support Lynn Tech students. Viewing hours vary by day, so be sure to check lyntv.org or the Lynn Festival of Trees Facebook page before visiting. While the Lynn Public Health Department is holding walk-in flu vaccination clinics every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. until January 31st, 2026. Residents can head to room 108 of City Hall with the next walk-in clinic taking place on November 13th. Contact the Lynn Public Health Department with any questions or to schedule a flu shot on a different day. And that's a wrap on the news for this week. The holiday season is fast approaching, so be sure to follow at Lynn Community TV on social media so you don't miss a single celebration. LynnTV.org is your home for all election results, upcoming events, and announcements, as well as all full government programming. For staff content, specials, and shorts, head to Lynn Community Television on YouTube. I'm Danny Vittori, this is the LCTV News, and we will see you next week.
This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Leo Inc., Daolis Brothers Construction, and King Movers and Storage.